Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and keep watching more details. Chicago Fire Season 13, Episode 19 remembers 2025 One Chicago Crossover's underrated pairing. The One Chicago universe established a great duo during the 2025 crossover, and Chicago Fire continues their story in Season 13, Episode 19, Permanent Damage. Over the years, the One Chicago TV shows have brought together numerous characters who rarely interact. Most recently, the 2025 crossover, In the Trenches, featured many unsuspecting but great pairings who all work together to save victims, including two of their own, trapped underground in a subway tunnel thanks to a gas explosion. Stella Kidd from Chicago Fire and Adam Ruzek from Chicago PD were the two characters trapped underground during the 2025 One Chicago crossover. They certainly had the upper hand because they shared so many scenes together, but Kidd and Ruzek were undoubtedly the three-part event's best duo. As a result, it's exciting to see them, sort of, connect again in Chicago Fire Season 13, Episode 19. Even though Kidd doesn't appear in Chicago Fire Season 13, Episode 19, the hour still acknowledges her previously established connection to Ruzek via her proxy to Severide. In Permanent Damage, a young teenager named Natalie approaches Severide at Firehouse 51 looking for Kidd. Since she is at a training course in Maryland, Natalie turns to Taylor Kinney's character for help. Natalie's family lost their home to a fire many years ago, but she is just now coming forward to share her belief that her sister started it. So Severide starts investigating, and the first thing he does is call Ruzek. Unfortunately, Patrick John Pfluger doesn't make a cameo in Chicago Fire Season 13, Episode 19. The audience only sees and hears Severide's side of the call, which features the firefighter asking the police officer to run a license plate for him. He catches the plate when Natalie and her sister drive away in her car. Chicago Fire makes it clear that Severide trusts Ruzek, which is undoubtedly a result of Ruzek's new bond with Kidd after the 2025 One Chicago crossover. Following their shared traumatic experience, Ruzek and Kidd have probably kept in touch. Since Severide is married to Kidd, he and Severide have likely formed a friendship as well. So Ruzek's new dynamic with Kidd effectively extends to Severide, as seen in Chicago Fire Season 13, Episode 19. The hustle and intensity of a typical day at Firehouse 51 were in full swing as the team faced another relentless round of emergencies. But amidst the chaos, something more somber was unfolding, a remembrance of one of the most understated, yet heartwarming, partnerships to emerge during the 2025 One Chicago crossover event. As the firefighters of Firehouse 51 prepared for their evening shift, Chief Bowden called an impromptu meeting. He wanted to take a moment for the team to reflect, not only on the challenges they faced but also on the bonds that held them together, bonds that often went unnoticed. This tribute was for a partnership that had proven itself time and again, though it rarely made headlines. It was the unexpected camaraderie between Cruz and Haley Upton, two of the most different personalities within the One Chicago franchise, yet two who had developed an incredible connection during the 2025 crossover event. The crossover had originally been framed around high-stakes drama, featuring explosive rescues, criminal conspiracies, and emotional confrontations, but the heart of the story lay in Cruz and Upton. To the casual viewer, it was easy to overlook their partnership, especially when compared to the more prominent team-ups like Severide and Casey, or Hank Voight's no-nonsense alliances. But in a quieter, more profound way, Cruz and Upton's partnership carried a subtle but powerful emotional depth that transcended the immediate action. For Cruz, it had been a chance to prove himself beyond his usual role as the easygoing, charming firefighter who had once been defined by his playful nature and close-knit bond with his team. The crossover presented him with the chance to take charge in a way that wasn't typical for him. But it wasn't just his own growth that stood out, it was the bond he formed with Upton, the no-nonsense detective who was often perceived as being too tough to let anyone in. From the start, their dynamic was a bit awkward, an odd couple of sorts. Cruz, with his heart-on-sleeve vulnerability, and Upton, who rarely wore her emotions so openly. At first glance, they seemed mismatched. Cruz, the quintessential team player who would do anything for his friends, and Upton, whose loyalty to her job often meant keeping everyone at arm's length. Yet, over the course of the crossover, their differences became the cornerstone of an unexpected yet deeply moving partnership. One pivotal moment stood out in particular, when Cruz and Upton were trapped in a warehouse after a building collapsed during a rescue operation. As the fire raged around them and the building creaked ominously, it became clear that the team might not make it out in time. With little more than their wits and whatever they could scrounge together from the wreckage, Cruz and Upton worked in tandem, their conflicting styles meshing in an organic and beautiful way. Cruz's optimism and determination gave Upton the strength to trust in the uncertain situation, while Upton's level-headed pragmatism grounded Cruz, making him more focused and less impulsive. Their chemistry was undeniable, a delicate dance of two people who understood one another despite their differences. Cruz's ability to stay calm under pressure, paired with Upton's relentless pursuit of justice, made them an unstoppable force. And in the quiet moments of the crossover, when they were huddled in the corner of the collapsed warehouse, exchanging a few whispered words to keep each other grounded, it was clear that this partnership wasn't just born from necessity. It was born from a deep mutual respect and an understanding that at the end of the day, their job wasn't just about saving lives, it was about protecting each other. Back in Firehouse 51, Cruz was the first to mention the bond they had forged. "You know," he began, his tone light but full of sincerity, "I never thought I'd have much in common with someone like Haley Upton, but after all that I realized we've got each other's backs in a way no one else does." Severide, who had been silently listening in the background, raised an eyebrow. "You two had quite the thing going during that crossover." "Yeah, we did," Cruz replied with a small chuckle. "It's funny. I didn't think it would be a thing at first. She's so, well, intense. But there's something about that intensity that makes you want to give everything you've got to make sure she's okay. She's a force." Bowden, who had been quietly nodding in the corner, stepped forward. "That's what this job is about," he said, his voice filled with the weight of experience. "It's not just about the flashy rescues or big saves. It's about the small moments, the quiet ones, where we find out who we really are and who we can trust." But it wasn't just the firehouse that remembered the unexpected pairing. Upton herself had spoken about Cruz's influence in a rare, candid moment during an interview for the One Chicago community blog. "Cruz has this lightness to him that I don't have," she admitted, her voice softer than usual. "But he's also got this quiet strength that really helps ground me when everything is spinning out of control. I'm not used to leaning on someone, but with him, it's different. I trust him." It was a sentiment that echoed back at Firehouse 51 that evening, where the crew shared stories of their own unspoken bonds and the moments that had shaped their journeys. For Cruz, it was a recognition that his partnership with Upton had shifted something in him. It wasn't just about putting out fires or rescuing people anymore. It was about connection, real, human connection, the kind that doesn't come easily but is worth every ounce of effort. And as the episode closed, with Cruz and Upton sharing a quiet moment at the end of their shift, watching the city lights flicker in the distance, viewers were reminded of how often the most meaningful partnerships are the ones that don't require grand gestures. Sometimes the most powerful bonds are forged in the moments when two people, despite their differences, stand together in the face of something bigger than themselves. Cruz and Upton might not have made the headlines during the 2025 One Chicago crossover, but their understated partnership had left a lasting mark on the One Chicago universe, and on those who had the privilege of witnessing it.